Hello and welcome to PM Personality Profile. My name is Nana Ansakwa. Now I am sat here in the front room of Angela Dwamena Aboagye, CEO of ARC Foundation. I've been waiting for this interview for a while. I just need to find out who she actually is. Is she that firebrand lady that we hear and see in the media all the time? Indeed, how is she funding her charity? Because I know she's got shelter for abused women. Being that we're people who don't give out as much towards such a cause, how is she managing to keep it? Who is helping? Indeed, the Ministry of Women and Protection and Gender, what are they doing to help? I don't know, but very soon I'll get talking and I want to delve into what keeps her going. Stay tuned, it's going to be an exciting interview. Hello and welcome back. And as I said in my intro, that sometimes I wonder why certain people continue to do certain things that they do, even though there isn't much of a financial reward towards it. Even though sometimes society would blatantly ignore what should have been society's responsibility. Why would just that one person take it on board and say, even though nobody's going to do it, I will do it, and still fight and champion on? Angela Dwamena Aboagye, CEO, President of ARC Foundation. And I'm sure you know what she's done in terms of fighting for women and protecting children. As a society, we are not very keen or don't champion that cause. Even as a state, how much money do we put towards that cause? So why wouldn't she just sit at home and enjoy her family and let everybody else worry about their problems? That's why I'm here. But before I get there, welcome to the show, Angie.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Now, I think it's Bob Marley who says, he who fights and ran away will live to fight another day, because I've been chasing this interview and here I am in your house another day to fight this fight.
All in good time.
Very good, very good, very good. Angie, but I want to start by finding out if you had a horrible childhood.
No, I had a very happy childhood, in fact. I come from a big family. I'm the last of 8 on my mother's side. So somebody would say I was a baby of the family, and I was babied quite a bit, and I was very precocious. And my family was very loving. My dad really loved his children, and so did my mom. There were rocky times in their marital life. Part of what I do probably comes from seeing the power differences between women and men play out in marriage. But I wouldn't say that it directly affected us, maybe indirectly. Okay, but by and large,
good upbringing.
It was good upbringing.
Siblings, being the last, did you have to fight, to be recognized, or but probably not, because you were the last? I mean, I don't know. How was it?
Well, the good thing about my parents is that they gave equal value to their children. I didn't have to fight for much, but I used to be bullied quite a bit by especially my big brothers, because the last one, Carlos, is 6 years ahead of me.
Okay.
So there was that gap. So of course, if they do something wrong and I report them to my father, they are in big trouble when he comes. Okay, so generally speaking, when it comes to resource sharing and all of that, I had even more than my fair share of what the others got, I think.
Baby last.
Yes, baby last, which was nice, and which was one of the reasons why in my teenage years, my mother shipped me off to my big sisters, so I don't get too spoiled. So I got a lot of the training from my big sisters.
Okay.
Generally speaking, yes.
And all siblings are still alive and kicking?
Yes, all of them are alive, all of them doing well by God's grace and by God's mercy. My mother is 90-year-old now, alive and kicking and very bright. My daddy passed on 20 years ago.
Okay.
You probably know him, Lawyer Aduasechi.
Lawyer Aduasechi. I knew he was very best friends with Professor Barima.
Yes,
yeah.
Very, very much so. And your own grandfather.
Well, I'm home. I am home. But then, okay. Yeah, so then I want to find out, did you go through like an abusive relationship?
No. As I said, a bit of what I picked up about the power differences came from home, actually. When you see that your mother could have been anything, including President of Ghana, because she's so bright and intelligent, but because her education was truncated because she was a girl, but your father could go all the way to become, a lawyer, whatever. Those things came to me very strongly. Home, he can go pretty much wherever he wants to go. If mom has to go anywhere she wants to go, that's another matter. Things like that. So I picked those up quite early, but when I got to school, especially in law school, from studying family law and from participating in a lot of student movements, some radical student movements, if you like, things like that, I began to understand that there is power between the rich and poor, between the men and women, between adults and children. It was gradually dawning on me because I didn't have a very rough childhood. And so I later on in life went to do a master's in law and women's legal studies, and then it opened my eyes to a whole host of things that were going on, particularly violence against women, violence against children. And that coalesced into the founding of the ARC Foundation when I came back.
I'll get to the ARC Foundation, but this little rundown that you've given us, does it affect family life where, Mr. Dwamena might say, look, I want a cup of tea. Hey, what's wrong? Can't you boil the kettle? Won't it boil when you push the button? Because I can't be your man who are being or bad who are being.
Oh, I say that.
but this
in life went to do, if you like, from home, very, very
still alive.
All of that to fight affected us,
I want to start by finding out if you had a horrible childhood.
No, I had a very happy childhood. In fact, I come from a big family. I'm the last of 8 on my mother's side. So somebody would say I was a baby of the family, and I was babied quite a bit, and I was very precocious, and my family was very loving. My dad really loved his children, and so did my mom. There were rocky times in their marital life. Part of what I do probably comes from seeing the power differences between women and men play out in marriage. But I wouldn't say that it directly affected us, maybe indirectly. Okay, but by and large,
good upbringing.
It was good upbringing.
Siblings, being the last, did you have to fight, to be recognized, or but probably not because you were the last? I mean, I don't know. How was it?
Well, the good thing about my parents is that they gave equal value to their children. I didn't have to fight for much, but I used to be bullied quite a bit by especially my big brothers, because the last one, Carlos, is 6 years ahead of me.
Okay.
So there was that gap. So of course, if they do something wrong and I report them to my father, they are in big trouble when he comes. Okay, so generally speaking, when it comes to resource sharing and all of that, I had even more than my fair share of what the others got, I think.
Baby last.
Yes, baby last, which was nice, and which was one of the reasons why in my teenage years, my mother shipped me off to my big sisters, so I don't get too spoiled. So I got a lot of the training from my big sisters.
Okay.
Generally speaking, yes.
And all siblings are still alive and kicking?
Yes, all of them are alive, all of them doing well by God's grace and by God's mercy. My mother is 90-year-old now, alive and kicking and very bright. My daddy passed on 20 years ago.
Okay.
You probably know him, Lawyer Aduasechi.
Aduasechi. I knew he was very best friends with Professor Barima.
Yes,
yeah.
very, very much so. And your own grandfather.
Well, I'm home. I am home. But then, okay. Yeah, so then I want to find out, did you go through like an abusive relationship?
No. As I said, a bit of what I picked up about the power differences came from home, actually. When you see that your mother could have been anything, including President of Ghana, because she's so bright and intelligent, but because her education was truncated because she was a girl, but your father could go all the way to become, a lawyer, whatever. Those things came to me very strongly. Home, he can go pretty much wherever he wants to go. If mom has to go anywhere she wants to go, that's another matter, things like that. So I picked those up quite early, but when I got to school, especially in law school, from studying family law and from participating in a lot of student movements, some radical student movements, if you like, things like that, I began to understand that there is power between the rich and poor, between the men and women, between adults and children. It was gradually dawning on me because I didn't have a very rough childhood. And so I later on in life went to do a master's in law on women's legal studies, and then it opened my eyes to a whole host of things that were going on, particularly violence against women, violence against children. And well, that's coalesced into the founding of the ARC Foundation when I came back.
I'll get to the ARC Foundation, but this little rundown that you've given us, does it affect family life where, Mr. Dwamena might say, look, I want a cup of tea. Hey, what's wrong? Can't you boil the kettle? Won't it boil when you push the button? Because I can't be your man who are being or bad who are being.
Oh, I say that.
But, and I mean, does it affect your family life or?
My family life?
Yes, your family life.
Well, let me start with other people, then I come to mine.
Okay.
These things do affect people's family lives, and that's why violence is endemic. Family violence, for example. Because yes, men have killed their wives over bushmeat not being in the soup. Go back to the newspapers and find out. Or I suspect she's talking to another man and pulls out a gun and shoots her. Of course, I'm saying this because you need to situate it in real life.
Sure.
The things that we work around have to do with everyday relationships between women and men especially, and other segments of the society. And what people think is theirs by privilege or by power. Just because I'm the man, I have a right over you. I married you. These things come from our societal's way of thinking and appreciating gender relationships. In my home, praise be to God for that, I married a very sensitive man. That's a good thing. But he also comes from the same society I was born and raised in. And so we had to walk together, in learning and relearning some of these things. So for example, he's very good at taking care of the children, which most people think is my job. Okay?
Yeah.
And being able to speak to them about things that they probably will not even ask mommy about. And if you come to my home, you don't know who bought that car that sits there. Don't assume it's Mr. Dwamena Aboagye. Could be me. Okay? So we've managed to shift around lots of these gender expectations and things that have come from our society that actually, when pushed to the limits, gets to violence. So if he says, Angie, can I have a cup of tea? It's so nice to give it to him. Why? Next thing you know, he will be bringing me something. Okay? Yes. So it's a really give and take. And when I think I'm too busy, I'll say, Kwame, go get your cup of tea. And it won't create a slap.
And it shouldn't, should it?
It shouldn't. It's so sad that these things actually result in the kinds of things that we see in our newspapers and on our radio stations all the time.
Actually, but you see, we've grown up with this idea that there are certain roles that are clearly defined for women, and there are certain roles that are clearly
defined them.
I don't know who did, but you sort of grown up to know that, the kitchen is the woman's place, the remote control is for the man, the chilled beer is for the man, and the zombie in the cupboard there is supposed to be for the woman.
Exactly, and the chicken thigh is for the man, and then the neck is for the woman and the children, or something like that. Yeah, so we that's why we question the given. Thinking people should always be questioning and challenging the status quo. Where did that come from? Why do we disregard persons with disability when the next minute any one of us can become a person with disability? We were all children before. We know what it meant to be denied food, sleep, being given overwork. And yet we grow up and suddenly we say we are adults. When I speak, you don't say anything. Where did that come from? Okay, so we need to be questioning, so that not to create chaos in society, but so that people value themselves and each other as human beings, worthy of respect, worthy of love, worthy of worthiness. Okay, I think we are missing a lot on that, and that is where the abuses come from.
And so should it be added to, let's say, school curriculum where from class 1 you thought that you, as a boy, sometimes you cook, as a girl, sometimes you clean the car, so that they grow up thinking that, oh, there's no clear defined roles?
Not clear defined rules, but so that, you see, this is the way I see role. What I'm able to do best, I do well. I do my best. People, another thing, like people expect that women should be multitasking. Well, I've seen many women who are multitasking, praise God, when they are cooking, they are washing the dishes and changing the baby's napkin. If you ask me to do that, I'm sorry, the whole house will be in chaos. Don't assume that just because I'm a woman, this is my place, this is my role, this is what you expect me to do. But what is it that I do best? Okay? Am I able to make sure that everything is arranged in order in the home? I do that best.
Administration in the house.
Yes. If it is somebody who has to counsel the children when they are in trouble, and my husband knows how to do that best, I know how to do it best for other people outside. Why not? You see, that's what I believe makes people shine, be the best they can be. So yes, it's important that in re-socializing our children, boys know that there is nothing wrong with cooking. It's a job that has to be done. Girls should know the same. Girls should know that if I don't have a man in my car, I get a tire burst somewhere, I can take out my jack and start, pulling it. And if there's a courteous man who comes by and says, hey, let me help you, we'll do it together. What's wrong with that? Okay, so I think that all of these things are issues for re-education. But my fear has always been that, sometimes you say, but the roles is okay. Yes, it's okay if I'm cooking and you are paying the bills. Well, there's nothing really wrong with that. It is when the expectations become so high that if I fail to do it, I am sanctioned for it. So if a man loses his job and is not able to pay the children's school fees, and then it gets to a point where the woman starts calling him Sansenyi, Kwasampenyi, things like that, she is abusing that man because she's expecting him to fulfill a gender role and he's unable to, not because of any fault of his own.
But that's the whole reason why we signed the marriage contract, that I'm going to pay the bills and you're going to do the cooking. So as soon as you stop doing the cooking, you've broken the contract. And if I don't pay the school fees, I've broken my part of the contract.
Not at all. No, not at all. Marriage is a give and take. Marriage is a partnership. It's a union. The Bible says that two become one. And that oneness, we have explained it in so many different ways in our fallen, corrupted cultures, that it doesn't quite work out the way God expected it to be. Okay, one means that I'm holding your hand, we're working together. When I stumble, you pick me up. When you stumble, I pick you up. It doesn't mean cook is this, iron is that. It makes it, you reduce it to tasks. Is that why we are on this earth? Just to perform tasks or to live? We are here to live, and we are here to live in community and in harmony. And the best must do what they can best do, according to their abilities. The Bible talks about abilities, talents. All of these things are lessons for us, and they don't prescribe them by gender. And that's why today women are going into space. They are doing all kinds of things that people thought women couldn't do before. Did God make a mistake? Now that we see women winning all the prizes in the medical schools and engineering schools, what were we saying in the past? That is now before God has woken up and put brains in women's heads, so they are winning the prizes. It doesn't make sense. It means we were together all along. Something went wrong.
Is your family supportive of your advocacy, or they will call you and say, "Media, stay at home and stop all these fighting for the cause," or they support you that go on, we're behind you?
Oh, well, my husband has had occasion to meet some men who have said, "I won't allow my wife to do what your wife is doing." They even ask him whether we sleep on the same bed together. I mean, how can you bear to be married to a woman like this? But they don't know that the fact that you speak up, means that you are some hard geezer, you don't give way, no, not at all. Yes, my family is very, very supportive. My family has supported me right from the beginning, not just my husband, but my mother, my siblings. And in fact, we are quite a family of advocates, if you like, in different fields. Okay, so I'm just one of them. Okay. It's nothing so whooshes, as it were, in my family. I'm just one of them.
No, because you will need it, because you need somewhere that you get some support or some solace. So I was just trying to figure out, because if the family wasn't against you, then you would be in real trouble.
Oh, I will be in trouble. That's one, no two ways about. Because I know people who have been in trouble because they have chosen to stand up and to speak up about these things. I know people like that.
Then I go to the ARC Foundation. Why the ARC?
Well, the ARC is a women's human rights organization, but it is also founded on biblical Christian principles of love, mercy, and justice. Now, probably because I'm a lawyer, okay, so the justice aspect comes in. Love, mercy has to do with relating to people, okay? And so people usually say, wow.
No, it's fine. Ambience in the background. It's fine.
Okay. People usually say, is it the Noah's Ark? I say, well, it's quite like it, because we also run a shelter for abused women and children. But really, it's the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay.
The presence of God among his people as a refuge and a strength. The idea is that apart from us offering shelter to abused women and their children, we also do empowering programs, you know, to help people, especially women, become everything that God says they should be, not what society ascribes to them.
And how old is the foundation now?
Registered in 95, but we started working in February 1999. We started full-time February 1999.
I mean, I must commend you for such a humongous task. Humongous task. Now, I say that because as a people, I think we've become very selfish. If it's not, stuck on my thigh, then why should I worry? How do you fight through this attitude?
Well, thankfully, I've not done it alone. I've had, as I said, support from my family, but also the ARC started in this house, in our boys' quarters, one of the rooms, and we stayed here 5 years, so we've invested quite a bit, into it. But I've had great staff, since I began, most of them young people. People nobody will give a fighting chance, and they've been so dedicated to this work, both women and young men, in terms of spreading the word, doing the sensitization in the communities, making sure the shelter is running, making sure all our programs are going, and trying their best to do an excellent job with the money that is given to us by some kind donors. So far, I think most of it has been because I've had a great team. And the team often tells me, well, it's because you're a good leader. So let's say we work hand in hand together. I make them feel that we're all in this together because it's like a calling. Do it the best way you can, because God Almighty in heaven is looking at us.
Okay, so now that's why I went back to your childhood. It was brilliant. Relationship is fantastic. So where is this fight? Because normally people who have this fight have been through something and they think, I won't wish it upon my worst enemy, so I'm championing a cause not to. So where does this drive come from then?
Well, like I said, it was a slow thing. You and I, we are middle class. You can run away from it.
Okay.
And if you come from a good family, you don't actually feel the impacts of being poverty stricken. You don't actually see certain things until you become conscientized in third world, language, and in let's say socialist language and so on. All of these things come up. I slowly became conscientized, awoke to what was happening in our community and in our society. And I said, I can't sit back, okay? Yes, it's true that the first part of this conscientization came from just observing my family and the power relations, between my parents, okay? I used to ask, for example, you and Nana, so this will interest you. Why is dad able to just, maybe go make a baby here or a baby there outside? Mom should do the same. What will happen? But you know what will happen. You and I will. And then I come back and I ask myself, why should mom be sanctioned for doing something that men are allowed freely to do? You see, so it dawned on me. Exactly. I was questioning. And then I was looking around. On campus, even the power play between female students and male students, and all of that, where they think they have a right to squeeze your bottom, when they feel like it. All of those things came together for me. And then the whole huge thing about violence opened up suddenly, especially in the early 90s, when I started, I was working with the Attorney General's Department, and cases of murder, homicide against women by their partners.
Trivial reasons.
You open a docket and you see a woman hacked, one leg here, one arm there, and by a husband, she says, look, the way you are behaving, I can't live with you anymore. You are disgracing me. I'm going back to my parents. He meets her by the riverside somewhere, hacks her into pieces. These were regular. I mean, either they shoot them, even when their children are, or they hack them. And then the rape cases. And because my boss at that time also saw that I was interested in knowing more, they used to bring these cases to me, okay, to look at. And all of this, came together for me to say, no, if there's anything I want to do with my life, I want to see how I can help alleviate some of these troubles, either by preventing them through education and sensitization and all of that, and empowering women to be able to say no, or to be able to recognize when these things are happening, and then to provide some protective services also when that has already happened.
The next thing is immorality. You see, I grew up knowing that as Ghanaians, we're very, very moral, and sometimes you hear Sidney Cook, the notorious pedophiles, oh, this can never happen in Ghana. We are not pedophiles. You hear a rape case and you think, no. It must be a white man. There's no way we can be that bad. But then suddenly, realization dawned on me that we are actually worse. Were we living in denial?
Yes.
Or has it just become...
No. We were living in denial. We forget that we had come into contact with the outside world through colonization and through trade and all of that. Not only that, even in our traditional societies, you'd see that certain crimes were severely punished. It meant that those crimes existed. For example, rape, or rape in the bush. It defiled the land. Okay. People were allowed to beat their wives though, but you couldn't beat the person, beyond a certain point. The community will come in. Okay, so these things existed. And as we modernized, it got worse. Exposure to television, exposure to now internet and all of those things. But for a long time, we've been in denial. When we started this work, how many years ago? I can't tell you some of the names that me and some of my colleagues in this field were called. We spoil the women spoilers, marriage breakers. Your own cousin calls me Memansru. Memesru, all kinds of names that we were called. And some people were really offended by the fact that we dared to say that women too have rights, that you can't just go about doing some of these things and go unsanctioned. Okay, so I think we've been in denial as a country. And yes, you hear, this is not our culture. You people who have gone and studied abroad, you are bringing Western ideas and so on. Then, praise be to God, the media boomed after the culture of silence was broken. And then all these reports started coming in. And it's like, wow, has this been with us all along? Or people are just becoming, I open so they can report?
Let me take a break here, and then when we come back, we are looking at, last year, 2012, Ghana Health Authority, I did a survey, and 750,000 teenage pregnancies was recorded. 750,000, almost 1 million. What is the effect to population boom, and who's going to protect all these girls? Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back. Having a heart-to-heart with Angela, CEO of our foundation. And just before one of the break, we were talking about how we've lived in denial, and then suddenly, with the boom in the media industry, we now realize all those naughty guys hidden in their backyard and the bad things that they're doing. So we're living in denial. But Angie, 750,000 teenage pregnancies recorded in 2012 alone. 700. Now, you know, we live in a country where even if you're 30, you probably still be living with your parents. You know, you haven't found your feet yet. So between 19 and 9, and according to the statistics, between 9 and I think 13, it's 250,000 girls. Between 9 and 13, has it gotten out of hand?
It has. Actually, it has. It's a massive failure of social policy. It has. We are not a huge country. We're like 25 million.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a youthful population, and it means that when you have a youthful population, you must really focus some attention on youth development in a very structured, intentional way, which is what we are missing. We are doing cut and paste, a program here, a program there. You know, you don't see the coordinated front in which we look at how our youth are coming up, how they're being bred to become leaders, how they're being empowered to lead themselves. We've blown it. That's the only way I can see. Because even within that are also the gender issues. Mm-hmm. Okay, among these girls, there are those who have been impregnated by their fathers. There are those impregnated by their stepfathers. There are those impregnated by their brothers and people in the community. And then there are those who have been impregnated by their classmates and then by adult men in the community.
Wow.
Okay? It means that the girls lack a certain type of information that will enable them to make right choices. Of course, you may have the information and still make a wrong choice, but at least you would have minimized it to a large extent or to some extent. And then we also have all this breed of people who are impregnating them, who don't even come under the lens of scrutiny. For us to say, how are we going to target those who are impregnating them? Most of them are in no position to take care of these girls. So it becomes the girls and their parents' responsibility. And guess what? In our families, it means the girls and her mothers and their mother's responsibility. Because she's going to be the grandmother who takes care of the girl and her baby when the baby is born.
And teachers impregnating students too is just getting too high.
Yes. When people live in a society where they think that the rule of law works in only certain segments, you know, look at the way we were so enamored with the Supreme Court. I mean, I'm happy that at least people now know how court works in this country. Very few people know what goes on in the circuit and the district courts, where these things should be what they should focus their attention on. You know, those are the institutions to protect us. The ordinary district courts, where a girl who has been impregnated by a man who wouldn't take care of her is able to get something, a remedy, so that at least that poor child will be taken care of. The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice in the districts, those are the institutions we should be paying attention to as well. Okay, the police stations, DOFSUS, these are protective institutions. If they don't have the capacity, if they don't have the resources, where are we turning to? The traditional leaders, some of them are perpetrators. And if they are not perpetrating it, they are actually settling cases they should not be settling. Particularly when it has to do with some of these sexual offenses and these domestic violence offenses, and they are settling them and interfering even with police processes. You know, so
bring it to the palace. Let's talk about it.
Oh yes, bring it to
the palace. Let's talk about it.
That's not alternative dispute. That is really suppressing the rights of a particular section of our segment, and I think we've blown it somewhere along the way. And for me, it's a massive failure of social policy.
So I was trying to lead to, where do you get your strength to carry on?
God. I center myself. I know somebody will say, oh, as for Ghanaians, everything God. It's true. Me, I'm happy everything God. Because without God now, I don't even know what we would have been doing now. You know, I center myself a lot in my relationship with Jesus Christ. That's where I get my strength. Look, I get tired. I get frustrated. Sometimes I look at the problems we have to handle. Somebody comes to your office with barely a stitch on their back, holding 3 children. She can feed them. She's been beaten. And it's like, where do I go next? Then I turn my eyes upward and say, God, we can't solve this problem. You have to come in. You have to let us find a way to be able to let this person go back a little better than they came. And he has never failed. Never ever failed. Even at this time that we are having trouble with getting finances to keep our shelter running, on a daily basis, somebody will bring some 100 Ghana, 200 Ghana, things like that. It's clearly not enough, but it just tells you that even the trickles are working, so we are still running it.
See, I apart from your shelter, I haven't had many shelters within the country. And considering the level of abuse, which is known, it's not unknown, has the state got shelter?
Well, currently, yes, but they have not started running the shelter. The state has orphanages and shelters for children.
Okay.
But for abused women, no. For teenagers, difficult. They may be able to put them in the children's shelter, but not for long. Okay. But for abused women, no. We are the only organization that has run a shelter consistently for the last 13 years in this country. There's a lady up north who's started a shelter for widows.
Okay.
Abused widows, up north, Widows and Orphans Ministry movement, doing a great job. Betty Ayagiba, that was set up just about 3 years ago, I think. And then Women's Initiative for Self-Empowerment, that runs a temporary place for young girls who have been abused. When they need longer term, it's referred to us at the ARC. So when it comes to adult women, teenage girls who have been abused,
I see. What then amuses me is that when I hear you complaining of funds, how can you complain of funds? I mean, you run a very needed, shelter, considering our immorality. You have women for gender and children, which is always headed by a woman. So you should be swimming in aid. I mean, why should you not have aid?
I hope so. I hope that will happen soon. Well, you see, first thing, Ghanaians are very friendly and very sociable, but we don't have a philanthropic culture. We give at funerals, we give to church, but to causes like ours, it's hard. I've appealed to several people, and some very good people have responded. But for most people, it's like, oh, you find a way one way or the other, It's hard. And I know I'm not the only person or the only organization going through this. And then also...
but before you go, I mean,
yes.
Being that the state itself hasn't gotten a shelter,
it's not running the shelter they have.
Or running the shelter, and since you've had, won't they give you some money? Look, this is our token. You go and sort this business so that at least it will be the cheapest way for the state to say, look, there's your money. Go and run your shelter.
I wish it could do that. I really wish it could do that as well, because sometimes when you talk to our traditional development partners, they tell you this is the state's work. You put pressure on them, do policy advocacy so the state can do its work. But they forget that we live in the third world. We may be a middle income country, but poverty hasn't gone anywhere. And the people who suffer poverty the most and its debilitating effect are women. No two ways, and these things have been established by all kinds of research reports and so. And once you are in that class, vulnerability to violence is, it's a given. Okay. Now, the state uses the gender ministry to do its policy work in this arena. Go check out the gender ministry's budget this year. It's laughable. Let me put it that way.
I see.
This ministry is in charge of social protection in the country, children. And women, not only women and gender, which is a category by itself. And its budget is so small. The minister and her deputies are very sympathetic towards what is happening, because they know they even bring us clients. There are some people who go to the ministry because they're in trouble, and they refer them to us. And I know they wish they could just give us money to do that, but they can't. What they have is not enough. They have the Domestic Violence Secretariat to run, they have the Human Trafficking Secretariat to run, they have the Department of Women to run, and all the departments of children in this country to run. They just can't afford to give us that kind of money.
Can you I mean, I always have a naive question. Can you run a lottery? I mean, like the gender, run some lottery with some V8 and say, look, everybody pay 1 cedi. You may win this V8, and people might buy the lottery ticket, and then
somebody will provide us with a V8.
Maybe not a V8, maybe a small car. Maybe a small car. And then we do a raffle, and so at least there's some money. Because you see, every time a woman gets battered, the first thing is, why did she stay in the relationship? Yes. She was stupid. She should have left.
Yes, which is a very ignorant question, but legitimate. Because it's like, why would you stay there for 20 years, have 6 children with this man who has been beating you forever? There are reasons. We can't go into all of that, in this short time. But there are clear, cogent reasons why women choose to stay. And some of it is because they don't have options. They just, where will I go? If I go to my family, they'll send me back. I probably don't even have room in my father's house anymore since I left. And they'll say, this is how marriage is. Where should I go? You go to your pastor, he will quote Ephesians 5:22 and say women should submit to their husbands in all things. Into your book, it's probably exactly. So we have a real situation, and that's the daily living experience of women. And that's why, yes, we need money. Let me tell you, since Ghana was declared a middle income country, many of the donors who used to support us in this kind of work have gone elsewhere. They're going to places where they think there's more trouble, more conflict, and so on and so forth. And it's their right to do that. Unfortunately, they don't realize middle income country is not protecting people at the bottom. Okay? And this is something that I believe that the state should really be aware of and see how it can help organizations that are doing its work at the grassroots level.
But aren't these big corporations, some of them adopting you or adopting 2 rooms in your shelter? Or
let me say a good thing. I mean, it's not all negative. We've had lots and lots of support because it's a continuing thing. Every day you need money. That's the thing about this kind of it's money. Okay, this for example, Vodafone Foundation supported us for 3 years.
That's good.
With money to help with shelter, and we also have a crisis center right here in Accra where people come directly to report. That's in our head office. Vodafone Foundation. Currently, Michael Essie's Foundation gave us some money to do sensitization. You also have to keep educating people so they can prevent, to do sensitization. There's the African Women's Development Fund that has also supported us for a long time, and they give us quite an appreciable amount of money, but it's usually targeted towards women's empowerment activities, so leadership development and so on and so forth. So I can't say that it's all been bad. There have been organizations and groups that have helped, but
we could do it more.
Exactly, there needs to be more structured helping, and we need we just need more support. I don't know how else.
No, I can imagine, because there's electricity running, there's water running, 3 meals a day, people, washing, laundry,
hospital. Some of them come and we have to do the insurance for them. Babies are being born, in the shelter, who need all, because the little girl is 13 years old, cesarean, of course she can't push, so you need to buy all the feed, all the whatever inoculations, everything we have to take care of on a daily basis.
Maybe there's somebody watching who's really touched and said, no, let me call and help. What number do they call?
We have a hotline. You can do 2 things with it. If you have a situation of abuse you want to report, you can use it. Or if you want to help us, you can use this hotline number. It's 024 377 7773. It's a very easy number. 024 377 7773. That's the number you want to call if you want to help us
Okay, we'll put you on the screen. We'll put you on the screen so that, we'll put you on the screen so that, those who are in trouble may call and those who may need to help will call. But we hope that PM Express, there will be more helpers than, those who need it for a change.
Yes, the individuals really.
One thing that scared me, a little bird told me that, Angela wants to close down the foundation because it's becoming too much. I thought,
yes.
What?
Yes, we got to that point actually. And the shelter, it took us, I don't know what to say, encouragement from people, staff saying, no, we can't do this. I actually went to somebody high up, in the ministry, and she said, if you close it, what are we going to do? For 13 years since we started doing a lot of education, this has been the place where when push comes to shove and there's no alternative family that wants to take you or something, you can go. It's a confidential location.
So,
we try to do the best.
If I'm in trouble and I come, what's my maximum? 2 weeks and I have to leave, or 1 day and I have to leave?
The official policy is 3 months, to stay for up to 3 months.
Wow.
But it doesn't happen in Ghana. These things happen abroad where there's transitional housing, like the council flat and so on.
Yes.
The government is involved in these things. So there's stronger collaboration with government to transit.
Try and find schools for the children nearby and everything.
Work, in some factory or the other. Here we don't have that. So some people.
So all is your problem?
Up to 2 years.
Whoa.
3 years. Cases in court. Perpetrator is still at home. No safety place. No place of safety to go. We have to work hard until the person is able to transit into a community of their choice. And of course, by the time they are going, they can't go with 10 fingers.
You need something small.
You need something small. Mattress, a few cooking pots, a little bit of money to trade, because they may have been, trying to assess their skills and what they can do before you get them out of the shelter. That alone, apart from the feeding, medical, psychological, and all of that, is also another matter.
See, while we are sensitizing, especially women, to watch out for signs and not get abusive, how do we sensitize us to be compassionate towards these causes? How do we, the so-called unabused ones?
Yes, I think that's part of what you're doing is great. The media has been a big help when sensitive people have decided to give us a platform to put out these issues, to educate people, schools, even hospitals. But when the media decides to be naughty and they sensationalize the issues, it has a snowballing effect. It desensitizes people. It says, the women, they like it. Some people, you hear people things like when you slap them about a bit, then they are happy, and all kinds of things. But that's also because of the way sometimes the media puts out some of these stories of abuse, rape, defilement, and the way they cackle and laugh when they are reporting it and so on. But for those who have developed that kind of sensitivity, this is one of the ways to be able to let people who are okay be a part of the solution of this problem.
Can we start from churches, or should we start in schools? Where would be a good place to catch them?
Multi-pronged. You can't do one and not do the other. The people who go to church are in school, the people in school are in the community.
And the mosques?
And yes, everywhere. Multi-pronged. And that's why it's also a huge task. Not one organization can do it, but there's too few of us who are actually doing it. You can count on my fingers.
Just a thought. Have you approached churches? Because you normally approach, all these big companies. Some of the churches are...
Yes, we do.
And what's the response on the churches? Please don't let me down, churches.
Oh,
you see, the churches are going to let me down.
One of them has been, about 3 churches
have been good.
Not much, but the heart with which they did what they did. I wish I could mention them, but I wouldn't. Maybe at another platform, I'll find a way of thanking them. The heart with which they did it.
Oh, why not? Really, let's thank the churches that helped.
Yes,
the 3 churches. I think we can mention and thank them.
I have approached several churches. We're considering it, hearing from us and things like that. And I'm thinking in my
Come
head,
on, Christians, don't let me down. Don't let me down, Christians.
Would be mission. This is mission.
How about big chiefs? How about big chiefs?
As for big chiefs,
The traditional
Well,
rulers. We're always
let me-
pointing fingers at
Yes,
churches. How
yes.
about
Let
us,
me-
the traditional
let me
rulers?
be honest. We have not approached any big chiefs for money.
Okay.
We haven't. We haven't. I can tell you that
Mosques?
mosques, no.
No.
We haven't approached mosques for money yet. It's been churches.
It's a hint. So once you're watching all these
Yes.
groups, I'm hinting.
Lots of individuals, lots of my friends, lots of the young women I've trained. Oh, they've been wonderful.
Wow.
You know, they don't have much, but 100, Angie, the shelter can't close. So, you know, I'll give you 100. I'll give you 200. I put 40
that's
in
100
the
sachet
account.
waters.
Yes.
That's 100 packets of sachet
I'm
water.
really using this platform to say thank you to the alumni of the Women's Law and Human Rights Institute, wherever you are. Thank you, all of you who have helped. We expect, you know, more from the others who are in different places and wanting to help. We need your help. Yes.
I don't know where else or how else to bring the picture home, but I think you paint it gloomy enough. But then again, I can imagine that any call to you saying that, oh, I'm going to help would really like rejuvenate you to say, oh, well, I must keep going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. 2 months ago, you know, somebody will say we were depressed. But thank God for the faith we have in him and the fact that, you know, some way, somehow, that's the thing, I like, some way, somehow,
No.
you know, he keeps you going. And that's what has happened. But you see, it's also in a negative way saying, so can't Ghanaians help their own? Okay, can't Ghanaians help their own? We are happy to say we've had foreign development partners, you know, being our biggest funders from 1999. But what about us?
Where the problem is.
Yes, where we are the problem makers and we must be the problem solvers. What about Ghanaians?
But also we love our mothers and our sisters.
Well, you know, yes, we do. We have a strange relationship. We love our mothers, but it's another dynamic when it's your wife. And that's also for another
day, yeah.
conversation.
I need to come back
It's
for that
another
conversation.
dynamic when it's your wife. Talk to many, even very well educated men, and they'll say, I love my mother this to me, I have 4 daughters and I love them. But the dynamic changes when it's their wife. Not that they don't love their wife, but there's some power play going on there, and it is always a problem. And unfortunately, that's where some of the violence comes from very well-to-do people, well-placed people, well-educated people. Sometimes they are the worst culprits.
Because all too often we always think that abused people are like the low in society.
Oh no, we have a cross section. Middle class women like myself, very high class rich people like myself, and then you have those who don't have. You see, those that we take care of in our shelter are those who don't have alternatives. So often we work with the poor and the indigent when it comes to shelter work. But for the crisis counseling and so on, we get, you know, a range of people. And most of the time, people like me, they don't want anybody to know that is happening to them. And
So
they are
they
not
suffer
also
in
likely,
silence.
yes, to want to step out and talk about it and all of that.
Wear the big shades to cover the black eye.
Exactly, yes,
They
and
think,
they
oh, more
walk
life,
into a
oh.
door and things like that, which is very, very unfortunate because they have the resources and they have the voice. So if they would also want to be a part of doing this work, it would be wonderful.
Are you training your daughters to join this, or this is a calling? It's not a training.
It is a calling, but I've involved them since they were children in many of the things that I've done. For example, we've marched a lot in this country over women's rights issues, you know, violence and political rights and so on. And when they were infants, I used to put them all together. We'll go on the march, you know, from Kwame Nkrumah Circle to wherever you see the children among us going with their T-shirts and things. So in a sense, I would say they are little activists in their own rights, but they also have what they want to do with their lives. And for me, as long as they know that they're people of equal worth and value before the eyes of God and human beings, and they won't let any guy mess around with them, I'm fine. I think it means I would have done something.
Don't make them too hard, though.
Oh, no, not hard. I'm not hard, though. You can ask my husband. I'm not hard. But, you know, when it comes to injustice, I can't take it.
Briefly on justice before I go away is, I mean, the cost for justice for these women, even if they knew what to do, how do they even access this justice?
That is a huge question. That is where groups like International Federation of Women Lawyers, to which I belong, Women in Law and Development, this is the kind of work they've done for over the years, for which we don't get much recognition, okay? People still think, oh, those are the women, always saying right here, right there. Access to justice, and I think the Chief Justice has been talking, is a problem. Many lawyers in this country think, it's just about, going to court and so on. There are poor people to help, and it costs money, and sometimes they want lawyers who will just say, I will do it for you, pro bono. Too few of them are involved. My own colleagues, some of them are doing amazingly well, but they're just too few of them involved.
We need to take social protection serious.
Yes, we do.
We
on
have
all
to.
fronts. On all fronts. Sometimes just the filing fee for the woman to put in a case, whether it's of
I've been
maintenance. Yes, maintenance even for the children. She's been beaten. That one, she doesn't even want to talk about it. But the maintenance for children, that is a huge problem for most people. They're even afraid of the courts. And some of them live so far away from these institutions that they don't even know where to go. As for access to justice, again, it's another whole show.
We need to come back. There's 2 more shows to do in this house. But Angela, thank you so much for granting me this interview. And folks, I've been talking to Angela Dwamena Aboagye, CEO of ARC Foundation, and it's been emotional, it's been touching, and I hope that we've all had a seed from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nana. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
Well, I walk away from this interview with that notion that if you and I play our part, maybe we could help. So for one person to start a foundation, she can't finish it. It takes each and every one of us to be sympathetic and patriotic and probably donate to this cause so that that battered woman or girl may have help. I thank God for the courage that she has to carry on such a cause. Maybe after this interview, we should all be sympathetic and donate to this cause.